Today I have Billy Love with me. Billy Love of Ascendia. Ascendia formed in 2012, put out their debut record, The Lion and the Jester, in 2015. They are set to release their second full-length album. We're going to find out from Billy about that album and when we might get it in our hands. Billy, it's great to have you with me, man.
It's great to be here.
Uh, I get the one sheet for this. It says Parasite. I get the files. It says Against the Rain. What is the title of the new record?
Yeah, so the new record is called Parasite.
Okay.
At least that was the last thing we agreed on. So I'm assuming unless they change it behind my back, no, it's definitely Parasite. Against the Rain is a track on the album, but it's not the album title. So we have a song called Parasite as well, and that's the title track of the album.
Okay. Was it ever the title? Did you ever consider Against the Rain?
Oh no, honestly, I think we knew right away that the album was going to be called Parasite. It was the first song that we wrote with Gavin, our producer, Gavin Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like our first meeting with him. We didn't even know anything about him really. I just knew he worked with like 3 Days Grace and these guys, and this is the reason why we wanted to work with him. But he came over to my place and we were working on the song, and the first song we wrote was Parasite, kind of a little bit from scratch, a little bit of ideas here and there, and then we were like, wow, that was a pretty interesting song that we wrote right off the bat, and we loved it. And it also had a very deep message. So the song itself is about Nick, our singer. He struggled with addiction, and pretty much it was like his rock bottom. You know, it was the addict days where you're a parasite to everybody around you, right? Like he's asking people for things, for money, for their life support, their emotion, and that kind of stuff. So we thought it was a very fitting title for the record, because the record's a very emotional record and there's a lot of meaning, and it has a lot to do with our personal life experiences. So we're like, it's got to be Parasite. You know?
Yeah, and that's great. I think it fits the band. And I want to talk a little bit about like the first record, Lion and the Jester, in 2015. It's quite a number of years ago, but we had a pandemic in there. But it's a different record. It sounds like not a different band maybe, but it's a very different direction. It was a little more symphonic and progressive. This is a little more like a modern sound. It was that intentional. Do you see that as the biggest difference from the first record to this one?
Oh yeah. So that was very fucking intentional. So I grew up on 80s stuff. That's like how I started, and then I got into like heavy modern North American stuff and heavy European stuff. But at the same time, me and my brother specifically were listening to a lot of like European prog power metal. So bands like Sonata Arctica, Camelot, Catatonia, just all those guys, like all those power prog guys, Dream Theater, a lot of that, Symphony X. And that really was like our high school, listening to those types of bands. And that was when we were writing The Lion and the Jester. We weren't really even writing Lion and the Jester. We were just a couple kids writing music, and we were just writing what we like listening to. But after that record, even during that record, like you said, 7 years passed, man. We changed a lot. And I also always listened to super modern rock and metal. I was always listening to bands like, Killswitch Engage at the time was like a big one, Slipknot, these kind of guys, Five Finger Death Punch. And I started slipping kind of away from the European symphonic power stuff and was really gravitating towards the more North American style, modern heavy rock, Breaking Benjamin,
Yeah.
And then it kept on going that direction. Even bands like, Falling in Reverse, Bad Wolves and Bad Omens, and these guys are like stuff that I listen to. Like, I don't even listen to the guys from Europe anymore. So we made a very, very strategic and intentful change of the sound, because it was just like, were we writing that music because we were young and that's all we knew? Yeah. And also it's because our writing ability wasn't that strong. We were just writing what came out. We didn't really know how to shape it and control it. So It was definitely a very intentional change from the original sound to what we're doing now.
just to say, I love the Lion and Chester. It's a great record.
I appreciate it.
For a bunch of guys who didn't know what they were doing, you did pretty well.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
And but I'm a huge fan of that kind of thing too. That
Oh yeah,
symphonic rock, Camelot, and Dream Theater and stuff like that.
oh
So
yeah.
yeah, it's
They're great. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like, yeah, we moved on because we're better and did better things. That's not the point. The point is that like we wanted a more refined sound that was a little bit, reflected our, who we were more today, as people. So, and that was kind of the more refined, shorter songs, not as much guitar solos, not as much prog stuff, and yeah.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about one song in particular that's kind of the square in the round hole for me on the new record, and that's Banty. And you mentioned Slipknot and Death Punch right there, and they're in that. So they're referenced in that song along with Maiden, but it's very Nickelback. I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
That's a compliment for me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. If anybody can write a great song, it's them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, but it has that kind of thing, with the big chorus and the sing along. That didn't feel Ascendia like to me. It's a little bit different than the other stuff. Tell me a little bit about writing that song and if it felt different for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a quite wide range of music that I listen to. Like, so I also listen to a lot of top 40s, and I went through a big country phase. Like, so when you say Nickelback, like you're dead on the money. That's exactly in that ballpark of what it is. But it was really trying to be Lady Antebellum kind of ish too as well. And because I there's a couple songs by Lady Antebellum that I think are just fucking phenomenal. And so when I was, I write a lot of the vocal lines and I write a lot of the music, me and John specifically, but I play piano. I don't play guitar. So I write on a piano. So naturally that just shifts how I write from a more rock style when John writes the guitars. And when I play piano and write on top of the actual piano. So it's interesting, yeah. So a lot of the times when me and John are writing, he'll play something on the guitar, I'll do some drums, and then I'll write a vocal line on it. But then there's other times where I'm just playing piano and I write the piece itself. And in a lot of the times it comes up way more like top 40s-ish, or even more, kind of mainstream rock. Like it's like Three Doors Downy or like, Nickelback or those kind of guys, right? So yeah, it's definitely a bit of an outlier, but that's also the newest track we wrote on that record. Like it was kind of after the whole record was done, our manager came up to us and was like, bro, we need a ballad. You gotta fucking put a ballad in there. And I was like, well, I love ballads. I love writing ballads. So I was like, no fucking problem. So we wrote a ballad. And that's what came out. And what I think I try and do as an artist is, my whole life I've tried to be like, we're this, so we got to stay in these parameters in this box, right? And that's good because it's good from a branding perspective, but it's not great from a creativity perspective. And for this song, it was like, you know what? Let it fucking flow. What comes out, comes out. And it came out kind of sounding like Nickelback. And it's like, you know what? That's, I'll fucking take that all day because I think they're great.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And it's catchy as hell. And it's it's totally a single.
You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like one of those, it's almost like an 80s anthem, like nostalgia song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, and it reminded me a little bit of their Photograph, where you think about your past and you think about all these things that mean the world to you, and it's very almost like Springsteen is Americana. It has this real kind of like nostalgic, feel good. It just makes me think back. And,
that's the whole point. The whole point of that song was really to like. It was supposed to kind of create a fantasy that every rocker would want. It's like, imagine I fell in love at a rock show. I'm with my girl. There's nothing better because rock guys, you know what they like? They like fucking music. And who doesn't fall in love? So those are like the two things where it was like, and then it's like, we're also talking about, we threw in the shout outs to Slipknot, Five Finger Death Punch, and Iron Maiden. Because I was like, it was like, we wanted to show like, hey, like this is our culture. This is what we are. So that was what we were kind of aiming for with that track.
It's great. I love it, man. It's a lot of fun. That's a cool track. First the thing people ask is, what do they sound like? I say I'm talking to, Billy from Ascendia. They're going to say, Ascendia, nah, I haven't heard of them. What do they sound like? That's always a difficult one for me because, I hate to compare necessarily. But you gotta start somewhere. How would you answer that? What does the band sound like? Well, how would you tell somebody?
So this is that question where I know exactly what you're saying. It's like I personally dislike this question because it's like, yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed as, this is the bands we sound like. But at the same time, people want a kind of a relative benchmark to understand who you are. So it's one of those unavoidable questions, especially as a newer band. Well, we're not newer, but it's pretty much a new band since the pandemic.
Right.
But if I had to compare us to bands, I'd say like I think we're in the realm of bands like Nothing More and Bad Wolves, and like, there's like, you'll hear some Linkin Park vibes, you'll hear some Nickelback vibes, you'll hear some Killswitch vibes, that kind of stuff. I try my best to emulate Corey Taylor as much as humanly possible, but he's just such a good writer. It's hard to get there. But yeah, like I would say that that's kind of the realm we're in that kind of a more modern rock kind of vibe, So.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that's very accurate. That's exactly what I would say. Before the pandemic hit, you had this record ready. That's what I understand. That's 2019, 2020-ish. How has that version of the record that you were finished with changed from the one you're going to release? Over that time, did you go, maybe I should tweak that? We got time. Did that happen?
Oh, I mean, if that doesn't happen, you're not an artist, right? Like, so the reality is this is, the reason why you have to release music is because you'll never release it if you don't, right? And it was one of those things where, if I could go back and change a bunch of the record, I would. I think the record, the bones are amazing. I think the songs we wrote were phenomenal. I'm super proud of them. Are there little things that I would tweak? Yeah, there's things I would tweak, but one thing our producer Gavin Brown, he's a fucking smart motherfucker, that guy. But one thing that he always said was, you got to take the paint off, you got to take the brush off the canvas, because otherwise it never stops painting. And all you're going to do is change things that were once great and you're just sick of. So yeah, like as an evolving artist, you're always going to want to change everything, but you can't be that insane. You have to release it, and you know what? The next thing is like, instead of changing what you did, progress, and then the next one, do it, and then release more.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way we're looking at it.
There you go. And then, you won't have that record that you can't top, like so many bands do. That debut record is great, and then everything else kind of. Tell me about Gavin Brown. You mentioned him a couple times, and I wanted to ask you about him. He's your producer. Produced Bare Naked Ladies and Hoobastank and 3 Days Grace. But I see his name in the writing credits as well. All of them almost. How involved is Gavin in the writing process, and what kind of producer is he? When you get in there, does he, let you do your thing, or is he the guy who says you need to add something here?
So So first things first, which was very shocking about Gavin, was how laid back he was and how much creative freedom he gave us. Because I was expecting, we did the first album, we never even worked with a producer, we did it ourselves. So I was expecting to go on with these like this handful of things, and the producer just tear it to shreds and go, this is not good, this is this is that. He was just like, yeah, cool, sounds great, let's keep on going. And I was, at first I was like, is this guy fucking with us? Like, is this guy just like, does he not he just doesn't care? You know what I mean? But no, it was his way, and I really, even growing in my own musical careers, I agree with him, because it's like, listen, what you should do as a producer is make sure that there's a line that you have to pass as far as the quality of content that you're creating. Once you're past that line, wherever it lands, that's just down to the band and the sound, right? You know what I mean? So there's obviously an objective quality you want to meet, but once you reach that level of quality, it's like, you got to let them free, because otherwise you're just going to make the band your band instead of who they are. So he was really, really great at letting us be very free. So that was great. But yeah, when we were deciding, talking about the writing, like, everybody was in the room. Whoever's in the room is getting a writing credit, because it doesn't matter. Like, ideas bounce off one. If that guy wasn't there, it would have been a different song. So no matter what, everybody gets the writing credit, but his way of writing is much different than mine, and he taught me a lot about it. He's very lyric based. That guy's a fucking storyteller, and he's a narrator, and like, you know, I find coming from a lot of the European like style stuff, because they fucking broken English, first of all, that like it's not really as focused on the lyrics as it is on making an incredible melody and incredible hook. And that was the world I was raised in. I was like, you got to write a great hook. You got to write a great hook. And then you meet with a guy like Gavin Brown. He's like, no, you got to tell a story. You got to impact people with a story. And it was like his emphasis was really on lyrics. So that's where he played a very quintessential role in the writing of the music. Was really lyric based. And then he was helping with the shaping of the song. Like, all right, this is, you don't need this. This is garbage, and put this here. Oh, don't worry about that. Just do this, and you know what I mean. But he never like really like picked up the guitar and was like, this is the song that we're doing. That was not really his role.
Okay. Yeah. And, you know, and as a listener, as a fan, and probably, you know, it seems like you might be too. I'm kind of a music guy. I'm not really a lyric guy. You know, I listen to it. Yeah, of course. I mean, the full package is the ultimate song, you know, but if it's got great music, it doesn't matter too much for me. You know what I mean? But, you know, having the full package is brilliant. You know, I mean, that's what we all want, is, you know, a song that says something, has a story, and it sounds sonically wonderful. And, you know, I think you guys hit that a lot of times with this record. You know, it's really cool. So, you know, is Gavin is he the lyric guy? You know, I mean, who I know Nick. I hear this about pain sheets.
Yeah,
you can tell me about that a little bit.
Sure. So it was there was no one guy that did everything or whatever it was, but you know, like for example, the pain sheets were very interesting. What happened was, for example, the song "Parasite," which is the title track of that record. Gavin was like, go home to Nick, and he's like, write everything on a piece of paper. I don't want you to write lyrics, just write on a piece of paper what happened, how you felt, your emotions, all these things. So Nick just came and with this like sheet of like how he felt, and this was the pain sheet. And Gavin just grabs the sheet like this. He goes, this circles this, circles this. These are our verse. And then he goes like, all right, we gotta tell the story about how we get to, and it's phenomenal how this guy just like reads this paper and just like picks. It's like, you know that like meme with all the like math going around in his head, and he just can connect the dots. So that was his thing for writing. But like, for example, this war, I wrote the lyrics for this war for the song, and then he kind of just put his like tweaks in, was like, yeah, we should put this and change this, kind of a deal. And this war, for example, originally was a song I wanted to write, like a hype song, like we're going to fucking war and we're burning this world down, kind of a thing. And I'm not sleeping, like while you're sleeping, I'm awake, kind of a deal, right? So that was what originally this war was. And Gavin heard it, he's like, this sounds, you know what this sounds like to me? He said, I was in a diner one day with this guy who was a war vet. And he was like, for some reason, this guy just never seemed comfortable. And Gavin was like, I could tell that the war that he had was just in him, just burning. And then that's how this song went from being like this hype up, we're going to war, to no, everybody fights a war within them, and like that war inside you is never really ending. That's kind of what the premise of the song about, is just like, you know, facing adversities and internal struggle.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is, you know, the sonically, it's fantastic, man. It's a great song to listen to. But you know, we have these lyrics that are, you know, introspective. They're meaningful. They're powerful. It just adds so much to what we're hearing sonically. So it's great what you guys do. I love the way you pair those things and make, you know, the ultimate package. I notice all the photos. There's 3 guys, you know, to the 3 brothers. You know, actually two blood brothers. And you know,
three blood brothers. 3 blood brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's really obvious once I started looking at this band that you guys grew up together. You're brothers. You're all brothers. But there's only 3 guys. I don't see anybody credited for bass. So, you know,
You're a fucking the guy. Eh? This guy. It's the fact that you noticed that is yeah. I know. Like some people will notice the three guys, but you knew right away. There's no fucking bass player there. What's going on here?
Well, you know, I mean, it's like, well, I'm an old school guy too, and I love credits, and I love to look at all the liner notes and all the lyrics and stuff like that. That's it's what I what I do. But I don't see a bass player. So, how's that work for you? Who played bass on the record, and then what are you going to do in the live setting?
Yeah. Okay. So that's been a topic forever. The bass player between the band. And the thing is, the reality is, it's like when we were recording bass for this record, it was Gavin and John that just played the bass on it. Reality is that we're kind of going for a more simple, heavy sound. So the bass doesn't need to be that extravagant. You don't need fucking Dream Theater style bass playing on this record. Right. This record is about, hey, play the root note and play it with the kick drum and fucking fill that bottom end and make it fat as fuck. That's kind of what it is, right? So. Yep. To get like a real bass player for that is not necessary in this specific genre of music, so you can get away without it. The live setting, we're gonna probably contract out the position, but the thing is, like, yeah, it's one of those things where because rock guys love the band, they love to see the whole band, and not everybody wants to. You get there's a guy that's not really in the band that's on the stage, you know what I mean? And there's that feeling, but it's also a business. We're like, we treat this like a business, and it's hard getting it's hard being three members, even as close as we are. Like, there's always three personalities. It's difficult to deal with.
Sure.
So having a fourth member and to play a role that's like the bass is not that hard to play. So you can pretty much hire a bass player that fits the part, and he can be on the live show. The rest we can do ourselves in the studio. So it was one of those things where we're like, what. We have such good chemistry. We don't want to fuck with it, that we're very, very, hesitant to bring someone else on board for that,
Yeah. And that's, that works for me. That's cool. As far as touring, are you looking at playing out? Do you have a tour ready to go? What's the word on getting out there and playing?
Right. So because, like I said, we released in 2015, we stopped touring in 2017, and then we went like balls to the wall trying to write the next record, and we were finished by 2019, and then we got jammed by the pandemic. So, really a lot of things came to a screeching halt. Like, we don't have an agent right now. But what our plan right now is we're going to be doing our, kind of like weekend rips, Southern Ontario things, Quebec City, like close areas, geographical areas to us. But we're definitely preparing for the touring phase, which, I spoke to my manager about it. He's like, we're thinking probably early next year, we're going to be fully in circuit. So we don't have anything really prepped, but of course the aim is to tour. Like, what are you, a band if you don't tour? You know what I mean? You're like Toto, you're just a studio band. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, we're definitely a live. We love live music. So we're gonna, as soon as the opportunity comes, as soon as the team feels it's right to, like, let's get on the road, we're gonna be on the road.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, don't forget Chicago, man. I'm right outside of Chicago.
Oh, we've been to Chicago a couple times. I love Chicago.
Yeah.
Reggie's.
Yeah, Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie's great.
Yeah, very close to me, man. A half hour away. So yeah, very cool. I look forward to it, man.
That's great.
Yeah, very cool. All right. And next time we got to talk, and we got to talk about your fitness programs and stuff, man.
Sure, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's just what. Let me ask you though.
Sure.
When you do that, it's a different world than music, kind of. But I would imagine, a little bit of Slipknot in the ears kind of helps with the fitness regimen, right? When you're working hard, it's a driving force, right? How does that marry together?
There's such a good marriage. Like, so what people, it's so funny. When I first started fitness, because I used to be a bigger dude. When I first started fitness, I was watching a lot of YouTube fitness people do vlogs, and they'd be at the gyms, and in the background, there's fucking 3 Days Grace playing. There's Five Finger Death Punch playing. There's Disturbed playing, and I'm like, America is a different world than Canada. In Canada, it's Drake, The Weeknd, Shawn Mendes, and other than that, right? So we were a very hip hop, top 40s, dancey thing in Canada. Whereas America, you guys are 5 different countries in one country, so you have markets for everything, and so you'd be surprised how many people that listen to rock are fitness people. So there's a very nice connection and merger between the two, between fitness and rock people. Like, a lot of my following base that follows me for fitness are fucking rock heads and metalheads. So so that's like kind of my brand that I'm kind of fusing together. It's like the fit rocker, you know what I mean? And it's a nice blend. Like, people seem to be accepting it quite well, and they do marry quite well.
Yeah, it's cool. I love to see well, you look great, but and I love to see you play, man. Because it's you really look like you're punishing the
Oh yeah, I beat the hell out of it. Yeah.
It's pretty great.
30 years of repressed anger.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, Billy, this is awesome, man. I'd love to do it again sometime. Come see me in Chicago, man.
I would love to, man. And when we're out there, we're definitely gonna have you come out, and it's gonna be great. We'll have you out there. We'll grab a beer.
Very awesome. Very awesome. I can't wait, man.
All right, buddy.
All right. Take care.
It, man. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.